G'day everybody, Chris Jelly here again. Welcome to the beautiful Hawke's Bay. Now I've just torn halfway down the countryside to come and see some people that I believe you should know about. Now as you know, the next phase of the government's emission standard is about to be introduced in New Zealand, which is going to cut out an estimated 85% of the fresh imported vehicles coming in from Japan. And as you know, I think that's a bad idea. It's not going to clean up New Zealand's air quality whatsoever. What I have found out in my research and studies is that there is actually a company out here that has been lobbying government to introduce an effective, globally recognised emission standard or emission inspection system in New Zealand for a very, very minimal cost that will actually do something to improve the quality of our air. But the government doesn't want to know about it. Now, why is that? I don't know. Let's go and find out. Let's go and talk to Herbert. Herbert, I understand you've come up with an inspection standard that would be effective in New Zealand.
Yes, that's right, Chris. Yeah, look, it's my business to train people to deal with engine management systems, electronic faults on cars. As you might know, that each vehicle nowadays on the road has got a computer on board. That computer is responsible for the emissions on those vehicles. There seems to be a misconception out there, Chris, that the emissions are taken care of for the rest of the life of the vehicle, which nothing is further from the truth. That's just not true. It's my business to teach people in garages to how to repair that.
Are you aware of government's next phase of the emission rule?
Yeah, I'm vaguely aware of that, yes.
Do you think that the government's next rule will help?
I have my doubts. From what I've heard, I've got my strong doubts, yes. I think that in-service emission testing is the way to go.
I hear you've been testing thousands of vehicles in New Zealand and have developed an emission standard suitable for New Zealand.
That's correct, yes. The emission testing that we do in conjunction with many garages throughout New Zealand, it gives us average data as pass and fail limits that are flexible, that are depending on age, and that gives us a good insight in what's happening in New Zealand, and also gives us a good insight in where the pass and fail limits should be on vehicles.
Through your research, are you able to identify the worst polluting 5% of vehicles?
Yes, correct. That's absolutely true. We already are identifying them. I can already even give you the license plate numbers of those.
Is there any emission standard currently in place in New Zealand?
It's a visual standard. You stand behind a tailpipe, you don't see it smoke, it's good, and that makes it a subjective test, and subjective is, whatever the person thinks of it.
How long have you been in discussions with government about emissions testing?
2003 I had the first meeting with some persons that then it was called LTNZ.
How's that gone so far?
Poorly, yeah. I suppose that's best way to describe it, yeah. It's only about $35, more or less, depending on which garage, which socioeconomic area you are, to have an emission test done.
Could the government possibly be worried that these standards will not be globally recognised?
No, that's all globally recognised. The equipment we sell is totally internationally recognised and accepted of OIML standards, Class 1 and Class 0, that gets used worldwide, and that's what my customers usually use in the workshops.
Do you teach technicians how to repair vehicles?
You need to understand that it's much harder to get emissions under control in a late model vehicle than what it is in an older style vehicle. The New Zealand technicians are more comfortable with older technology. Hey Chris, when I showed you the test data, all those averages, what did you think of that?
What was interesting was that some of the new and later model vehicles were just as polluting as some of the old ones, and that those vehicles could potentially stay on our roads for the next 20 years.
Correct.
Can they be fixed?
Definitely, they are able to be repaired. It's my job to teach technicians how to do that.
So how many of our paid politicians have come down here to learn about the research that you've conducted?
None.
None?
No. I'm very happy to talk with them, yes, and maybe show them some insight, some technical insight, yes, I'm more than happy to.
Stephen, got a job for you right here. Got to come and talk to Herbert.
That'll be the one. Thank you, look forward to it. We're producing here results that say that, for example, the carbon monoxide level should be at 4.4% if we're cutting out 5% of all vehicles. 4.4%, that is where a 1970s vehicles is already running too rich at. So please understand, we're talking about really bad emissions of maintained vehicles in New Zealand. Something has to be done.